I was the dork in school that always did funny voices, you know. I was the fourth grader in the talent show who did impressions of Jimmy Stewart, which is always kind of strange coming from a fourth grader, you see, you know. So that was you know what I would do then, and I grew up doing musical theater. I always played the character roles, the old men, you know, the British school teacher, that sort of a thing, you know. So I'd always kind of worked on that. I mean, that was just second nature to me. I studied a little bit at the University of Southern California here in Los Angeles. I studied drama. I studied in New York City at the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, where I was privileged enough to find out that if you can't dance, you can't do musicals. So I kind of stopped doing that. I can't dance, don't ask me. But I went back up to San Jose, where I grew up, worked on a local TV show up there for 3 years. We won several Bay Area awards, and it was great fun. It was basically a combination of Evening Magazine and Saturday Night Live. My partner was the Evening Magazine part, and I was the Saturday Night Live. Basically, we would do exposés on America, garage sale versus yard sale, which is it? You know, and you'd really get very interesting answers to things like that. And when you wouldn't get answers, I'd play everybody else. You know, so that was my exposure to playing different characters. I, of course, grew up with, you know, watching Saturday Night Live and the brilliant character work on that. When the show that I was working on dissolved, I kind of figured, what do I have that sets me apart? And it always came back to the voices, to the characters that I do. And I came down here. You know, I kind of came after the boom had hit. So, you know, there were a lot of people I've had to make my way past. Still not where I want to be yet, but that's coming. The fans were very, very worried about my playing the role, because the only thing they knew me as was a role on the series Digimon, and this role was Hawkmon. And you see Hawkmon, you see he talks like this, you see, very prissy, sort of British, you know, very uppity. Certainly not what you would think of as Optimus Prime. People kind of forgot the word versatility, you know. Well, when they first heard the original episode, I think the messages on the board kind of changed a little bit. They stopped being quite so worried, you know, but it's, I'll never forget, you know. And to be honest with you, I took it as a challenge. I thought it was great. Because I knew, you know, I was just kind of sitting there on my computer and going, little do they know. I did not audition for the role, okay? I was brought in and auditioned for a couple of the minor villains, Slapper and Gas Skunk, really fun guys, stuff that I'm really pretty good at. And I also read for X-Brawn. Now, the specs on X-Brawn was that he had to be a Southerner, and he was obviously an SUV, so they wanted something a little rugged. So I basically went in and did something like this. You know, howdy, ma'am, I'm X-Brawn, nice to meet you. You know, well, one of the producers over at Fox was listening to the tapes when they were trying to decide who would play what roles when they were casting, and they heard, you know, they heard the Optimus quality, and they kind of went, wait, okay, here's the thing, let's bring him in. They didn't audition me, okay? So I was contacted by the producer, and they said, you know, would you like to play Optimus on the pilot? Now here's the thing, we're going to have to get it past network before, you know, we can say the job is yours. So I really didn't believe that I was doing the voice of Optimus Prime until September 9th, which was the day after the first episode aired. But they basically called up and said, do the same thing, but just take out the dialect. Now, I had watched Transformers when I was younger, you know, so I was somewhat familiar with the work that Peter Cullen did originally. So it was really kind of easy, and that's pretty much where, when I just kind of move my voice to a certain place in my throat, and that's just where it sits. So it's pretty natural. I really don't have to do a whole lot of affectation or change to it, you know, it's really very comfortable. We had two main directors of the show. One of the directors, Mike McConaughey, actually was in the original series, okay, did several voices and worked with Peter Cullen. So he had an established feeling for how he felt Optimus should be played. Now the main director was Steve Kramer, and both of these guys are very talented and very good at what they do. But Steve had a different feeling of how Optimus should be played. He should be more action-oriented, more more upfront and take charge. So in the episodes that Steve Kramer directed, you'll tend to hear Optimus Prime being more upfront and really getting into things. Now, on the other hand, Mike McConaughey wanted him slower, more John Wayne-ish, more like what Peter Cullen did. We would take words out of dialogue to slow it down, make it more ponderous, make it a bit more authoritative. So my definitive approach to Optimus was whatever my director wanted. But I mean, they both fit. You know, they both fit the mold of the hero, you know, of who he was. And one of the things that I was mentioning before was the difference between Optimus Prime and Robots in Disguise and in every other permutation, obviously when he's a truck, as he turns into a tractor trailer in the other episode, in the other series. So, you know, when he's off duty, he's like hauling Jell-O packs and stuff like that, you know, like food to the market and broccoli. Not that we don't need broccoli, it's very good stuff. But my Optimus Prime was a fire truck. So when he was off duty, he was still a hero. He was always heroic. And there's just something really pure and unfettered about that was really kind of nice, you know, to play instead of playing an uppity hawk or a really twisted villain or something like that. Just, you know, no ifs, ands, or buts. This guy's a good guy. It was a lot of fun. Our air date was September 8th, 2001. I think, the 35th anniversary of Star Trek. So I was really excited. But I, for instance, got on the internet at 5 a.m., you know, West Coast time, so I could chat with the fans and get their reaction. You know, I'm psyched because I'm not only an actor, I'm a fan. You know, I love these things. I go to fan conventions for different things as a fan. You know, I love baseball, and if, you know, you read any of the interviews that I did before the show aired, we made it clear Optimus Prime does not like the designated hitter. So I was on the chat and getting the feedback from back east, because to be honest with you, this show turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to be. You know, when we work independently, like we do on this series, you don't really get a feel for how things are going or how things are fitting together or how the show is flowing or really catching people's interest. So that was my first experience with people watching it, and the reaction was overwhelmingly good. And the show kept airing throughout the country, and people were being very positive about it. I had been receiving emails on the 9th and the 10th, and everything was going great. And then, of course, we all know what happened September 11th. And I started getting emails again after that. But these were quite a different tone. These were people who were writing out of desperation, out of frustration over what had happened, over what they had seen. And they were basically wondering where Optimus Prime was, you know, and how they wished he could help. And obviously he's an American. And as the actor, I mean, it just touched me. I mean, so much, and it frustrated me as well. I mean, obviously, I wish I could transform into a giant robot and help everybody out. But I also got one email from somebody that said that they were going to become a fireman. And that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I mean, that's basically taking, you know, I don't know whether it was an influence from Robots in Disguise or it was just he was writing to me as a trans fan and what happened, but you know, that's when it transfers over and makes a difference. You know, and that was pretty cool. BotCon 2002, that was amazing, you know, because I'm in LA, I'm driving around in my little teeny car, and I look around and see the big cars and the big houses, and I see the stars from TV and movies like everybody else does around here. Like I said, I'm a fan. I mean, that blows me away, you know. To be honest with you, one of my big things when I first came to town, I did a commercial with Dick Gautier, who was in the original series. And that for me was like, I'm really here. Oh my gosh, I worked with Broadway's Dick Gautier, and I was thrilled. BotCon gave me the chance to talk to him, to get to know him, to become friends with him. So on that one level, it was great personally for me. But on the other level, there were people who felt that way about me. And that's just, I mean, I'm just, you know, people come up all weekend long and say, Mr. Kaplan, it's a pleasure to meet you. And the only thing I could say was, I'm sorry, Mr. Kaplan's in San Jose. I'm his son, Neil. It's nice to meet you. Because, I mean, that just, please, I'm just me. The only difference between us is, I can do a couple hundred voices and characters and things of that nature. Aside from that, I'm the same as everybody else, So it was really great fun to meet people who had enjoyed the show a lot. I grew up a Star Trek fan, okay? And that's another reason why I will always try to be outgoing to the fans, is because I had a really bad experience as a Star Trek fan. I was a guest on the set of one of the films and was treated very, very rudely by a couple of the actors who we won't name, William Shatner. And I'm not a fan anymore. And I never want to do that. I never want to do that to somebody else. Obviously, I'm a person and we can have a bad day or a bad moment or whatever. But I also know how great it felt, meeting people whose work I admired, who just simply, smiled and said thank you, or maybe even had a couple of minutes to talk to me, So, it's the old golden rule, treat people the way you want to be treated. So, I mean, hopefully I'm open. The way they did Transformers back in the 80s with standard animation is you record the voices first and you animate to the voices. So you'd get the whole cast of 5, 10, 15, 20 actors in a room, which when you get that many voice actors in a closed room is always, always an amazing amount of fun. But for acquired animation, for anime, for things that have been done before and brought over here, we do ADR. We replace the dialogue, we dub it in. That's done one actor at a time, which is very much along the lines of what is done with celebrity animation. Because their schedules don't sync up, so they go one at a time. The difference is they're not under quite the same time crunch. Basically, because of what we're doing one person at a time, it's really up to the director, really to rein things in, really to make sure that everything's flowing in the right direction, which is why I give so much credit to, to Steve and Mike with the work they did. But you'd occasionally come in early for your session or stay a little late, hear other people that were working on the show. But for instance, I had worked with several actors on this show on other projects, and I know how amazingly talented Bob Joles and Wally Wingert are. I mean, these guys are incredible. Wally Wingert and I actually met playing the voices of Kiss for a video game. I got to tell you, Wally's got to be the most amazingly kind and giving and fun actor in town. And as many characters as I may think I do, forget about it. He's great. Dan Reardon did a great job. Also, I should mention, there's a little Easter egg on the DVD that none of you people know about.
What?
Well, you see, there was an episode of Robots in Disguise. Dan Reardon, who plays Megatron, was in Europe for 10 days. And they needed to, because of what had happened on the 11th, threw our schedule out of whack. We had to finish up other episodes that we knew were safe to air. Dan was out of town and had to redo, I believe, 2 of his lines of dialogue. Well, he wasn't there, so I played Megatron. I can't tell you what episode or what lines, but I'll guarantee you it's on the DVD somewhere. I've already had a couple fans email me and say, are these lines in this episode? And I'm not exactly sure. It usually takes to record Optimus Prime between a half hour and an hour, and most of that time is just setting up and locating the lines. Optimus is one of the easy characters because he's got this nice little face mask, and it's easy to dub dialogue when you don't have to match lips. Okay, when you have to match to lips, then you've got to make sure that you're reading the line so it goes ahead and fits however their mouths are flapping. So my job was a lot easier, than it has been in other shows where my mouth was visible. Unfortunately, I'm not a funny guy on the show. I mean, I may be one of the funnier guys that works on the show, but I'm not one of the funnier characters. But watching the show, it's pretty much hard not to fall in love with Peter Spellos and what he does with Skybite. I mean, so much fun. It's basically like it's taking a Shakespearean actor and shoving him in the second banana. And he was just brilliant. He was just fabulous. The secondary characters like Gas Skunk and Slapper, they were a lot of fun too. I mean, I would regularly watch the show and laugh at what they were doing. And inevitably with voice actors, as with almost any actor, you tend to watch the project and go, oh, I really would have liked to have played him. Yeah. Oh, that would have been fun. Oh, that would have been great. And inevitably, everybody says the same thing. I wish I would have played Skybite. If you did have a videotape of the outtakes of even this show, you'd be amazed. You know, we flub stuff up all the time and sometimes don't get out of the voice, you know. I mean, I'd be doing a very serious line and just, oh, Cracker Barrel. You know, obviously saying other things, but we're keeping this clean for the families out there. But there's that. There's also trying to break people up, you know, because sometimes it gets long and tedious. So you either try, sometimes I would try to, if I knew the time allowed, just whatever, try to break Steve up or try to break up Mike, the engineer. And one day, for some very strange reason, don't ask me why, I was just kind of screwing around and I came up with the Optimus, basically as we like to call him. And you know, I started doing it, Optimus Prime, transform! And Mike didn't like that very much, you know, although the engineer did. So and I couldn't get, it came to the point where I couldn't get 3 syllables out before Mike was on the button saying, put the moose away. You know, hopefully Optimus will get his own show at one point in time. You know, it depends how tight the director or the producer wants to stick to script. I've done a show that basically would do another take on a scene and let it go and just let it run and see what happened. And if they like that better, they'd go ahead and animate to that. Because it got to the point where we were playing the characters every week, we knew them, we understood them, we could carry it off into different scenarios, you know, and it would still work. Something like Robots in Disguise, you don't really get the chance to improvise because obviously visually it's already set, unless a line doesn't work. For instance, the writer at home wrote too many words, didn't write enough words. The director and the actor would sit there at the moment and just figure out, okay, what words are going to fit the flaps and convey the meaning that we want to convey right here. Well, I started off when I first did a character that had a toy. Absolutely, I had to go out and get it, you know. So I have the mini Prime, I have the large Prime, I have it in the box, I have it out of the box. You know, I have a couple different ones. I mean, you gotta realize. I mean, there are what, 3 guys in the world that can say they're the voice of Optimus Prime. I mean, that's pretty cool. You know, there are other known characters that I could do, and hopefully I'll step into at some point in time, and that'll be great. And ultimately, I would really like to create, you know, an original character and be attached to that and be known for that. You know, that would be a great fun. So whether it's you know, SpongeBob or Homer Simpson or anything like that, yes, it would be great to step into a role like Winnie the Pooh eventually, or Eeyore, or some of the other stuff I do. You know, maybe do a little bit, you know, for Gilbert every now and then. But what the heck? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. What the heck? I'll do something original. Doesn't matter. But you know, you gotta get the both ends. You gotta get the high stuff, and you gotta get the gravel too. It's sort of a mix. It's a little bit of, you know, if you had to make your living saying Polly wants a cracker, you would look like this too. I don't know. So anyhow, I'm hoping the opportunity will arise in the future to play the role again. Obviously, it's been around for, at this point, 19 going on 20 years. So I don't see that it's going to be going away anytime soon. I hope I did justice to the role, you know, not only for new fans of the show, but old fans of the show. And I hope the fans and Hasbro will give me the opportunity to play it again. If not, you know, it's been great. And like I said, you know, my Optimus holds a very special place, not only in my heart, but in the overall lore, you know, and that's pretty cool.